All right, welcome back to another Coach G drill. This particular one we call Trident. It is similar to our bump approaches drill. In this particular variation, we have guys on the low alleys as well as X. Um, and we kind of have different roles within this, right? So we've got a guy making an approach, we've got a guy showing, and we've got a guy in. So instead of just having a two slide and an approach, we've now got a show as well, right? So within it, we have that extra layer of complexity within it. We still have the guy that was just dodging, recovering. So it makes it a little bit more confusing for our guys. So it amplifies the level of communication that's required. Um, you'll kind of see that we kind of start out a little bit slow in this one, but as we start to get our groove within it, you'll see that we start moving a bit faster and start kind of playing within these roles a lot better. Um, you don't have audio in this one just because it was a really windy day for us, but you'll see our guys calling each other in by name, which was kind of built in within this one, forcing our guys to have to be really good communicators. Part of the purpose of this drill is to really make our guys have to communicate well and just have to be really intentional about calling in recoveries. We did this particular drill because we knew we had to be really good about going from being on ball to recovering, because we had to make quick approaches to the backside with the opponent we were facing this particular week. So again, kind of making a quick approach, showing, understanding that as we force this guy down the alley, it's also how we have to then make our approach from the show, not just kind of lingering under GLE, making sure we're kind of making a good show above GLE, and then as the guy kind of works the ball down, we then kind of work with that. So all about good positioning, all about good recovery in. So again, with any of these drills, you kind of edit it to your particular team's needs. You can always have the three guys in being the three guys recovering. Again, within this one, the guy that's kind of doing the dodging is also the guy that's recovering, just so we can kind of keep this particular drill flowing quickly. All right, so again, you'll see the guy makes the approach, and the guy with the ball recovers. Again, we do this without a ball just because we've seen that if we're asking our defensemen to be really good at making quick passes, we tend to throw the ball away. So we just kind of use our imagination and follow through there, right? So just understanding how to show in that space and work down as they kind of force that guy into the alley. And then just the timing of, as this guy recovers, we can't make our approach until we get a bump out there. So again, you'll start to see the timing start to line up a little bit better, right? Good recovery there, allows our guy to get out. And then making sure that our guys get back into the appropriate spaces there. So on top of just making our guys have to be really good communicators, is forcing us to kind of work quickly, builds in a good amount of conditioning here. Doesn't let you kind of rest at the end of a rep either. So, as they kind of tire out, forces them to have to be really focused. Kind of puts them into kind of like a late game. We're going to be tired. This is where we have to really be focused and kind of use our heads, and we can't just kind of go into autopilot and assume it's going to be enough. Forces us to use our communication when we're at the end of a long possession, at the end of a competitive game. Trains our brains just as much as our feet. So again, taking away a side as we approach X, trying to get contact, right? Take away a side as we approach the low alley. And then same type of thing as we saw in the previous drill, right? Trying to move around a little bit more as we get towards the end of the drill, forcing them to have to really think about, all right, if we're diving, to mirror which way the guy at X is moving, how are we covering that to ensure that the hands aren't free and we're not leaving too early or getting there too late. Timing up the backside as we're recovering and pushing the guy out to make an approach. So once again, this drill kind of starts with, if we're making an approach out on this side, we have a show here adjacently, 2 on the back side. As soon as they make a pass out to the alley, the guy that's showing is going to make an approach. The guy that was originally dodging here comes in. He'll then bump this next guy out. The guy that had ball here comes in and shows adjacently. The guy that was originally on ball kind of comes in and becomes 2, and then they just kind of flex back and forth. So goes from ball being here to ball being here to ball being here, and then just kind of goes back and forth, as you can kind of see as the progression goes back and forth across. So it took our guys a little bit to kind of figure this one out, but biggest thing within it is just understanding that every single time we have a guy that's on ball, a guy that's showing, and a guy that's covering crease, one of those 3 rolls every single time we're going. And again, similar to the pitchfork drill, the guy that has ball becomes the guy that's being recovered. Again, you can do this with, a set 3 guys and then rotate for us just to keep the reps going and forcing our guys to communicate to a specific person. We make it so the guy that was kind of doing our pseudo dodge becomes the recovery, kind of adding that layer of complexity and forcing our guys to communicate well. You see sometimes we get a little bit of breakdown there. Guy forgets to play out a roll. But another good way to kind of build in a little bit of conditioning into some of these drills that force you to work on a couple things that you definitely need to work on. Good approaches, breaking down feet, getting contact, showing in lanes, right? You can also go a little bit higher on this if you want your guy to, show a little bit higher there, right? With a lot of these, just because the recovery is so quick, we don't do a great job of kind of showing above GLE there. Kind of gives you both sides of it, right? Working on approaches, and then really concentrating on recoveries and communications on the inside, right? Specifically with the timing of, can I vacate and have to wait for this bump call? Just really thinking about kind of the pace of recovering in, right? I think a lot of times when a defender's on ball and gets his guy to pass the ball, he kind of thinks, all right, cool, my job is done. But really thinking about, getting back in and, making it kind of a 2-person responsibility, having guys have to really call him in as opposed to just assuming that he knows to get back in, makes it a little bit more of a shared responsibility. So that's kind of one of the big purposes of this drill, and just forcing the timing of it as well. So yeah, we call this drill Trident. Good way to kind of work on approaches to the alley, approaches to X, communication on the crease. Some of our guys like to call it confusing drill, so you can call it that as well. So thanks again.